to Delhi, without which you cannot clear. That is what most people advise you. This is so-called advice that people give you whenever you start thinking that you want to write civil service exams. In this webinar, let us dispel this myth. Without quitting your job, without attending any coaching class, preparing from home, you can do all this. People have done this, and so can you. So let's dispel this myth once and for all. But to begin with, let us look at the pattern of the examination. It's a three-stage process: prelims, mains, and the personality test. If I'm not audible, please raise your hands. So let me talk about first very briefly about personality test, because this is where I need to spend less than 2 minutes and we can close this chapter. In personality test, your knowledge will not be tested. Why? Because your knowledge has already been tested in prelims and mains. So what is tested? Your attitude, your aptitude, your presence of mind, your suitability for a career in civil services. And bear this in your mind, my dear friends. This is something that cannot be taught in any coaching institute. It comes with knowledge, and this knowledge widens your horizon. So these things, personality, presence of mind, no coaching institute can teach you. So here you are on your own. So personality test, your knowledge is not tested because it has already been tested. It's the test of your personality, your intrinsic traits which define your personality. But what about prelims? Let's talk about prelims because we have two stages, or we can divide prelims in two parts: general studies and CSAT. But basically prelims is, now what do we mean by rejection test? Those people who are unworthy of becoming IAS officers, they are rejected at this stage, eliminated at this stage. Non-serious aspirants who give this exam because their father or their mother's dream is this, or the grandfather has told them, please apply for this exam. So all these students who are non-serious, all these aspirants are eliminated at this stage. But if we look at GS and CSAT, let's talk about how you can prepare for GS and CSAT while sitting at home without joining any traditional coaching class. Now CSAT, the bulk of focus in CSAT is on reading comprehension. There are 80 questions in CSAT, 2.5 marks each. That makes it 200. But reading comprehension comprises of 35 to 45% of the questions. So if you're good in English, if you're good in reading comprehension, you can easily clear CSAT, because CSAT is a qualifying exam. All you need to score is 67 marks. If you score 67 marks, your GS paper will be evaluated. That means whether or not you enter into mains examination, that will be determined by GS paper and not your CSAT paper. But in CSAT, 35 to 45% questions are asked from reading comprehension. So basically, a passage will be given, and at the end of this passage, some questions will be asked based on the knowledge that is provided in this passage. But how to master passages? How to master passages without joining a coaching institute? Please read a newspaper. Newspaper, in any case, you will be reading for your GS exams. But newspaper articles you have to read. Newspaper opinion pieces you will have to read. But while reading an article, try and understand and read in between the lines. While reading an article, try and understand what is the objective of an article? What is the general idea that is conveyed by the author? Because bulk of these questions that are asked in your CSAT are something like this. Which of the following the author is most likely to agree or disagree with? So how do you know whether the author agrees with the statement or disagrees with the statement? That means you will have to understand this passage. How can you understand the passage? Practice. Practice is the key to CSAT success. But how can you practice it? Read a newspaper. Read it regularly, never miss it. While reading an article, please try and understand what is the objective of an article. What is the general idea conveyed by the author? And when you're able to master this, you'll be able to solve all the questions in reading comprehension. I'm stressing on the word when and not if, because I know you will be able to do this. When you're able to master it, you'll be able to answer all the questions that are asked. Apart from CSAT, reading comprehension in CSAT, the focus is also on 10th standard maths. Are you scared of maths? If you're scared of maths, please skip it. There is no need to even attempt any question in CSAT. But this 10th standard maths basically talks about very broad things such as time, distance, and speed, mixtures and allegations. But it's very, very basic questions that are asked. Apart from this, you have logical reasoning. You have data interpretation. Mental ability. And you also have sometimes decision-making questions. But since CSAT is qualifying in nature, all you need to score is 67 out of 200. Then your GS paper will be evaluated, and based on that, you will enter into mains. But in all these areas, practice is the key. Practice the question papers of the past many years, 2013, 2014, 2015, and you will understand what I am talking about. These are very basic and very simple reasoning questions which anyone can answer. A standard traditional coaching is not required here. And if you're able to score in excess of 100 marks in CSAT, in all these three papers, if you're able to score in excess of 100, there is no need to further invest your time on CSAT, and please focus now on general studies. And now let's talk about the general studies. Again, general studies, which determines your future, which determines whether or not you will enter into the mains examination. A 200 marks paper, 100 questions are asked, and each question is of 2 marks. But if I can divide this, I'll divide GS into 4 indispensables. Four indispensables without which there is no chance of qualifying GS. 1, history, polity, economy, geography. These are 4 indispensables. Apart from that, you have environment, science and technology, India Yearbook, economic survey, and all encompassing in all these things is what we say current affairs. But we will discuss that a bit later. So these are 4 indispensables: history, polity, economy, geography, followed by environment, science and technology, India Yearbook, and economic survey. But what to read here? For history, and particularly for modern history, read Modern History by Mr. Rajiv Ahir. But then these sets of books, anybody can tell you. So what is the difference here? Why I'm telling you that read Rajiv Ahir and not any other book? So you can tell me a scores of books which people tell you that you should read, but I'll tell you, read one book 10 times rather than reading 10 books only once. But here again, the focus has to be on how to read. When I say how to read, follow a pattern called 5 W's and 1 H, which means what has happened, when it happened, where it happened, why it happened, who were the people involved, and how. And when you apply this formula, you will not be able to miss any question that will be asked in the examination. But there is also a linkage that you will have to do. For example, when was emergency imposed in this country? 1975. Last year, we had the prelims examination, 2015. So how many years? 40 years. These anniversary dates become very important. First year, 10th year, 25th year, 50th year, 100th year. So UPSC had to ask about emergency because it was the 40th year of Indian emergency. But they asked in a different fashion. Who fought against emergency? Mr. J. Prakash Narayanan. JP, as he was called. The entire movement was called JP movement. JP fought against emergency, but how do we know JP in history? In 1935, he founded Congress Socialist Party. And this question was asked in the examination. Consider the following statements regarding Congress Socialist Party and which of the above statements are correct. That means what is the link here? The question is asked on Congress Socialist Party, but why? Unless and until you understand why UPSC asks certain questions, you will not be able to prepare in a better manner. So the question was asked on Congress Socialist Party. It was because it was the 40th year of Indian emergency, and who fought against emergency? J. Prakash Narayanan. And the question on Congress Socialist Party was asked. Similarly, you have to use this formula of 5 W's 1 H while you're reading any topic. Let's say, for example, you're reading Quit India Movement. Quit India Movement. When was Quit India Movement launched? August 1952. August 1942. It was launched. Okay. Who launched it? The fact of the matter here is it was a leaderless movement. Because on the morning of 9th of August 1942, all the important nationalist leaders were arrested. When all of them were arrested, there was no one to lead the movement. So who was the leader of this movement? No one. It was a leaderless movement. So if tomorrow you are asked, who led Quit India movement? Gandhi, Nehru, Tagore, Patel. The answer is no one led the movement. It was the people's movement in absence of important nationalist leaders who were already in jail. But the important question now you should be asking is, why was this movement launched? This was launched because Second World War broke out. 3 schools of thought were there in Congress Party. One set of Congress leaders were saying, now this is the right time to hit the British Empire. Let's start a people's revolution and overthrow the British Empire once and for all. These leaders were saying that we should take advantage of the Second World War, we should take advantage of the weakness of the British Empire, and we should overthrow it. Second set was of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi said, I'm very sympathetic to the British cause. Why? Because British is fighting against the fascists and the Nazis. But there was another thought of Pandit Nehru. Pandit Nehru said, we shall neither support, we oppose Britain. We will be non-interfering in this area. And subsequently, this position was taken up by the Congress Party, and they decided neither to support Britain nor to oppose Britain. But then Mahatma Gandhi thought, that if Japanese will invade India, and in absence of a popular revolt in India, people, my people, the people of my country will not be able to revolt. So that is the reason why then this Quit India movement was launched. So you know what to read. History is very important. In history, the focus also has to be on art and culture. And in modern history, please read one book by Spectrum Publication. The book is by Mr. Rajiv Ahir. It's very important that you read one book than reading 10 books and only once, because revision here is the key to success. Now, you know history is important. Which book to refer for history? Rajiv Ahir. And how to read? 5 W's and 1 H. Use this formula and you will not be able to. Let's come to polity. And in polity, there is one Bible, if I may refer to it like that. M. Lakshmikant. Again, last year, in the last year of the UPA government, many scams were occurring in India. Scams such as 2G, Commonwealth Games scam, coal scam. So all these scams were taking place. So since these scams were making headlines, UPSC had to ask a question on them. But they asked in a different fashion. They asked a question on Public Accounts Committee. Public Accounts Committee is one of the committees of Indian Parliament. This comes under the polity section of your syllabus. But why was Public Accounts Committee asked? Because this Public Accounts Committee was looking into all these scams. So that means whatever is important in the news, link it to your syllabus and you will anticipate the question. That means not just answering the question, memorizing the facts, you should also be able to anticipate the questions that are asked in the examinations. So if today you will ask me, what are the important topics for the coming prelims examination? It can be Article 356. Why? Because President's rule is imposed in Arunachal Pradesh before, then in Uttarakhand, the matter is pending before the Supreme Court. So why President's rule is applied in states? What is the rationale behind that? That should be your focus area. Also, money bill. We saw, if at all you're interested in reading the newspapers, you might have noticed that Aadhaar bill was tabled as a money bill in Lok Sabha by the money bill. How is it different from an ordinary bill? How is it different from a financial bill? All these things you should be able to understand because these will be your coming prelims. Also, defections or party hoppings. A member of a political party, once he is elected to a Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, he changes his sides, joins the opposition, and he shall be disqualified. Because this is what has happened in Arunachal, this is what has happened in Uttarakhand, and if this has happened, this comes under your polity syllabus, this becomes potential question that will be asked in the civil service examination. So polity, very important, close to 12 to 14 questions are asked every year from Indian polity. For this, please read M. Lakshmikant, but how to read it? Again, the same formula, 5 W's, 1 H. And if you will understand this formula and apply it, you miss any question. For example, in 2013, a question on Attorney General, 3-4 statements were given, and almost every aspirant that I know was able to locate and decide that yes, 3 statements are correct, but I'm not sure about the last statement. And ultimately, they skipped the question, because they were not knowing whether Attorney General is also part of a committee of Indian Parliament or not, because this is not written in a book. So they were confused because of this. One statement they were not knowing, and ultimately what they did, they skipped the question and missed their chances. if they would have applied 5 W's and 1 H formula in this, they would not have skipped this. Now let's talk about another important area called Indian economy. And in Indian economy, the most widely important respected book is Indian Economy by Ramesh Singh. But how to do this? Last year, a question was asked on Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. Why? Why was a question on Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana asked? Because this was a popular scheme launched by Prime Minister Modi, not just a popular scheme. This was the scheme which entered into the Guinness Book of World Records. And once it entered into Guinness Book of World Records, UPSC had to ask about this, but UPSC asked, what is the objective of the scheme? So everybody knew what was the date was launched. What are the papers that you need to submit to banks to open a bank account under Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana? But what is the objective of the scheme? Please tell me. Many people faltered on this because they do not use this formula. Why was the scheme launched? The scheme was launched because the objective was financial inclusion. So basically, the idea is to tell you which books to refer, but at the same time, how you should refer to these books. You should be able to read in between the lines, keep your eyes and mind open, because there is an ancient traditional Sanskrit Rigvedic hymn which talks about Ana Badraho Kratavu Yantu Vishwataha. Let the noble thoughts come from all sides and embrace those noble thoughts. What about geography? Very important to understand. Please go through NCERTs from class 6th to 12th. There is also a book called Certificate Geography by G.C. Leong. So last time we discussed that a question on these scams were asked, but the question was Public Accounts Committee. What about geography? Since coal scam was in news, UPSC asked in which form coal is produced in this country. Now, do you have to look into all these resources that are available in this country and to understand in which form they are present in this country? No. Whatever is important in the news, whatever is making headlines and dominating the news debates, please focus on that and try and anticipate the kind of questions that can be asked. And that is your key to success. But after reading all these sources, including Environment, Science and Technology, India Yearbook, Economic Survey, here a newspaper, and in this case Hindu or Indian Express, you can choose either of the two. Hindu or Indian Express, any national Indian newspaper, if you call me, if you tell me, if you ask me, this is the Bible for your success. You skip newspaper, there is absolutely no chance. Never ever miss a newspaper, but read in between the lines. Once you read in between the lines, you will be able to answer all the questions that are asked in the examination. Because let's not forget, and please bear this in mind, whatever UPSC asked in examination, whatever and anything that they ask is entirely related to the important developments that are taking place in this country. Beyond that, UPSC does not touch any aspect. But after reading these sources, you will end up covering and answering close to, let's say on an average, 60 correct questions. So clearly, 60 correct questions you're answering, because if you're following all these sources and you are true to your potential, true to your goal and dream, correct questions. But the cutoff is in the range of, now that the CSAT is qualifying, 120 to 130. So clearly 60 correct questions is not a safe bet, considering the fact that there is a negative marking. For each wrong answer, 0.67 marks will be deducted. So what is the solution here? The solution here is this. There are 100 questions in GS, but there will be 10 to 12 questions which no one can answer. Which no one can answer. But when you look at previous year's question papers and find out about such questions, you prepare as if these questions are a standard. Please, please, and please don't even prepare for such types of questions. Questions such as, which of the following species have been declared as endangered species? You cannot memorize all these species. Even if you attempt at memorizing these species, you will lose. This is not going to be your agenda. Similarly, there are very difficult questions from art and culture which you might have never even heard of. So please don't even attempt memorizing or answering these questions, because these are very difficult questions that UPSC asked. Don't even attempt them. So the smart, intelligent strategy shall be, number one, to skip these questions, but focus on the other 88 to 90 questions. Assuming that you have followed the strategy religiously, you'll be able to answer 60 questions that I've told you. But that's not enough. Now you have to make intelligent guesses. For example, a statement is given, 4 statements are given, and at the end options are also provided, A, B, C, D. The options are only 1 and 2, only 1 and 3, only 1, 2, and 4. These are the 4 statements that are given to you. These 4 statements are followed by 4 options. But if you're preparing for civil service examinations, you will be able to at least understand and know that one of these statements is incorrect. So let us say statement 2 is incorrect, which you know because you have read about this. But what about statement 1, 3, and 4? You don't know about that. So normally what aspirants do, they skip this question and move on to something else. Ultimately, they lose 2 marks. Once you have figured out that statement 2 is incorrect, the question is asking which of the above statements are correct. You have eliminated second statement. And based on that, you have eliminated option B as well as option D. Because 2 is present in option D as well as option B. Now, the choice is between A and C. That means there is 50% chance of your answer being either correct or incorrect. But let's not forget, statistics is an established science. If you're able to answer this question, assuming that you have answered 28 questions like that, there is 50% chance of it being correct or wrong. Assume that 14 questions are correct and 14 questions are incorrect. You had previously attempted 60 questions. 60 questions will give you 120 marks. 120 marks is not a guarantee to success because the cutoff is in the range of above 130 now, because many people are now studying and studying very religiously. 14 questions you are attempting, 14 into 2 becomes 28. But there is also negative marking. So 14 into 0.67 becomes something like 9.38. That means 28 minus 9.38 will give you 18.62 marks. Plus 120, it gives you 138. And 138 is the safest score that you can score to qualify for the mains examination. So the idea is, yes, you have to focus more on GS rather than CSAT, because CSAT is qualifying in nature. But in GS, what should be your focus area? The focus area should be on 4 indispensables. What are these 4 indispensables? Polity, history with particular focus on art and culture, economy and geography, followed by environment, Science and Technology, India Yearbook, and the other important current affairs issues. But even after reading all these sources, memorizing everything at your disposal, you will not be able to answer more than 60 questions. But 60 questions is not a safe thing. Then you will have to make intelligent guesses, not wild guesses, intelligent guesses. And once you make intelligent guesses, statistics tell us if you follow a pattern, you'll be able to score more than 50% of what you have attempted, and you can easily cross the hurdle of 130 marks. That means smart work rather than hard work is what is the focus area. So this is what you have to do for prelims. What about mains? For further exclusive details on how to prepare for GS1, 2, 3, and 4, we have released YouTube videos on their strategies. So please go through them once and you will understand how to proceed in all these 4 subjects. But mains is all about convincing the examiner with your answers. Because you know what to study, you know what not to study, you know how to study, but it all boils down to how you're able to convince the examiner that you know the best about this question. Let's not forget, close to 20 questions you'll have to answer in 2.5 hours. That means roughly 7 to 8 minutes per question. That means there is no time to think. But once there is no time to think, you should be able to anticipate what sort of questions are asked. If I can take you 2015, the website is scroll.in. The headline of this newspaper article, of this website article is, if whistleblowers bill is passed in the parliament, there will be no one left to be protected in India. May 25, this was the headline on scroll.in, and come December 2015, when you had the mains examination, exact replica of this headline was asked by UPSC. They did not even change the lines. They did not even change the language. That means whatever is important in the news, whatever is debated in print and television media, whatever dominates the headlines, link it please to your syllabus and you will be able to anticipate the questions that will be asked. There is no need to mug up everything that is mentioned in the syllabus. That is practically not possible if you're doing it at home. Similarly, last year a question was asked on Cuban Missile Crisis. Why? Unless and until you're able to understand why, it becomes very difficult to start your preparation. So why this question was asked? Because United States and Cuba were coming closer to each other. They were restarting their diplomatic relations. This made headlines throughout the world. Once this made headlines, this became dominant in newspaper discourses, and this question was asked in World History segment. That means current affairs here is the key to success. That means whatever is important in the news, link it to your syllabus to answer every question that is asked. So what have we learned today in this webinar? We have learned that joining a coaching class, the traditional coaching class, is not required to clear this exam. If you're dedicated towards this exam, your dedication alone can take you towards your goal. But the question that is frequently asked to us, should I prepare simultaneously for prelims and mains, or should I prepare first for prelims and then after qualifying prelims for mains? Mains is an ocean. Prelims is the surface of this ocean. You prepare for the depth of the ocean, the surface is already covered. That means, what is important here? Whatever you think is important, whatever is dominated in the headlines of the newspapers and media, that becomes important. But prepare for mains, prepare in depth. Once you prepare in depth for mains, your prelims is automatically covered. So you don't have to separate the strategies for prelims and mains. Prepare for mains and your prelims is already covered. There is also a very important element, essay and an optional subject. You'll have to write essays on 2 topics that are provided to you in the examination. And this essay, again, the dominant themes are Gandhian philosophies. Mahatma Gandhi is the favorite of UPSC, and his quotes are frequently quoted in the essay topics, and you have to write on essays on the important quotes of Mahatma Gandhi. There is enough in this world for but not for every man's greed. This is what Mahatma Gandhi said, and this essay topic was asked by the UPSC. But then again, in essay you have to structure it. So there has to be a well-defined introduction, a body, and a conclusion. Conclusion you can put in your own words, your own ideology, your own convictions, but in body you will have to take recourse to newspaper articles, because you have to quote whatever is important in the news that is taking place, link it to the essay topic, and your essay will be well structured. And an optional subject, how you can choose an optional subject, we'll have a separate discussion on that. Here, the entire idea behind this webinar was to inculcate confidence in you, that without joining a traditional coaching class, you can clear this exam. This is doable. I'm not negating the coaching classes. No. They have their own plus points. They minimize your effort, but that does not mean coaching is a must. Please, please, please remember, point number 1, there is competition, yes, but your competition is with your own self. Remember, only you have the power to defeat yourself, no one else. Second, if this is your dream, go for it. Civil service is the only career option where you can touch the lives of millions of people in one go. Which other profession, you tell me, has the power to touch the lives of millions of people in one go? Yes, politics has, but that's a tougher exam to crack than IAS. Third, we live in India, and Indians glorify successes. But how can you define success? What is the idea of success in Indian sense? The idea is power. The idea is prestige. In IAS, you get both, and that too in equal measure. So please understand, traditional coaching classes where you devote bulk of your time commuting from your home or office to a coaching class is a complete no-no. This is not required. Stay at your home. Don't quit your job. Without quitting your job and studying at home, you can still make it. Your conviction, your determination, your ideology will determine your success. Don't even get fed by these ideas that coaching is a must and going to Delhi is a prerequisite to qualify this exam. This is a myth that must be dispelled, and this myth must be burned and shown its place. You can do so. You can do so without quitting your job while sitting at home, but please understand there is a guidance required here, and that guidance is also a very important element for your success. For further details, if you are willing, we can have a one-to-one counseling session. After this webinar, I will give you a form. Please fill that form. And if you fill that form, then you and me will communicate over a phone and we discuss what exactly is required, how to proceed further, because in 40-50 minutes, we cannot talk about the entire picture. So let's schedule a counseling, one-to-one counseling with you, fill that form, and we can collaborate how to give wings to your dream. So in this webinar, I hope I'm able to assuage your concerns, because concern basically was, can I clear this exam without quitting my job, without joining a at home? Can I do that? Yes, you can do this. And let's not forget, Barack Obama also said, yes, we can, and so can you. Thank you for joining. And if you have any queries, I'll be here for another 15 minutes. Please write those queries, and I'll try and answer all those queries one by one. Thank you once again for joining. Thank you.